Good day, coders. In this video, I'll be covering services and dependency injection. So just to explain services in simple terms, so Angular here provides us a way to actually write reusable code that can be shared amongst multiple components. So how do you actually create a service? So you run this Angular CLI command, which is ng generate s for service, right? And then the name of the actual service, which is going to be to do. But since I want this to actually go in my services folder, I'll just write this. So services, and then this is just going to be the to do service I want to create. So then Angular will run this and actually generate a service for us. Now I'm just going to clear. So now if I go to my services in here, you'll actually see the service. Okay. So now I'm just going to write a couple of functions, right? So this is going to be an add to do, remove to do. So in here, I'm just going to say an item, which is a string, because this is going to be a strings of array. It's an array of strings. Sorry, my bad. So then I'm just going to have index number. Okay, and then get to do's. Okay, so this over here is just going to be a function that returns array of strings. And yeah, so just for consistency in here, just gonna say this is gonna be to do string. Okay, so in here I'll just want to get a list of all my to-dos, right? So I'm gonna use session storage for this. So the moment I close the actual browser tab, it should clear off the storage, right? So now I'm just gonna use this to do, right? And then I want to I want to get my actual to-dos. So this is actually get items. Okay, so this is gonna be as string. Okay, this is gonna be, because I'm gonna use JSON parse, right? Because this JSON in here is gonna be stringified, and then if that doesn't exist, I just want to return just an empty array. Okay, so now how do I actually add my to-dos, right? So I'm just going to get all my list of to-dos. So I'm just going to use this get all to-dos from the session storage, and then I want to then actually add like a to-do. So in to-dos dot push, in this array I want to add this item, and then I just want to set my so I just want to set my actual session storage, and in here I just need to say json.stringify, right, my to-dos. Okay, so how do I actually then remove my to-dos? So how I remove it is through this. I'm just gonna add this too. Then I just need to say in this list I want to splice at the index just one item, right? So the first one. Okay, so this is how I actually then go about removing a to-do. Okay, so these are the functions I'm just gonna need, and then yeah, so let me just then create like a component that I'm just gonna use to actually add my to-dos, right? So I'm just gonna say ngg for generate component, and then I'm just gonna say in my components folder I wanna say add to do input. Okay, so that's gonna go ahead and actually create that component for me, right? So in here I'm just gonna say to do's container. So I wanna say in my to do container in here. So I just want two things, right? So I want an input with a placeholder. So add item, add items. So this is where you actually add your items with that input. And then I'm just gonna use like a button. So this is gonna be button. I already have like some styles set up in my global styles CSS. So I'm just gonna add this add item. Okay, so that's basically what I'll just need there. And then let me just add some stylings here. Okay, awesome. So what happens? So if I actually now run an ng generate, so in here I'm just going to display this component. So this is going to be add to do, and in here I'm just going to use this. Okay. So now this will give me this. Then I just want to actually now utilize this. Okay, but first in here I want to do something, right? So I want to have like an h3 tag or an h4 tag in here, right? And then I want to say how I actually get to use my actual to-do service, right? So I need to have like some sort of dependency injection, right? So how I inject the service is here in my constructor. If I do this to-do service like this is called like dependency injection, right? And then the next thing that I need to also do is actually add this to-do service under providers, because a service is actually provided, right? So this is how I go about it. So I'm just gonna say this is a public, well, I can say this is let me see. Okay, I'm just gonna say this is a private. Okay, awesome. Now let's go ahead and actually add the functionality for actually. So when I click handle add, and then here I'm just gonna have like ng model, which says item. Then here I'm just gonna say this item equals to an empty string. For modules. Then I just wanna implement this function, right? So this dot to do's dot add, this will actually add this item, and then items will equal to an empty string. So this is how I'll actually go about actually adding like a to-do. Okay, so in here what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have like a count of these to-dos, right? So I'm gonna say, okay, that's why I needed to make this public, right? So that I can access the service in here. So if I say to do service dot get all to do items dot length, right? This is the length. Then I want to say plus. Then I want to do this, right? So if the to do's is greater than 1, right? I want to say item, right? Else this should write items. Okay, so what's going on, right? So if I come in here, right, and actually now add Angular as a to-do, if I click this, this will say one item, right? Then if I add another one, which is gonna say Python, right? If I click this, this is gonna say 2, right? Because then I've got like 2 items in there. So let's go ahead now actually getting that data, because we can use like actually reuse this reusable code that's written in our service. So here in my actual apps component, I'll actually want to display all these items, right? So how I go about doing that is I'll just run like a for each loop, but I also need to inject, right? So I want to inject this to do service, which is going to be a to do service, and in here under providers, so to do services. Okay, so now I'm actually trying to loop through, right? So I'm just gonna say this is box.items, well, dot item, and then just gonna do that. Then I'm also gonna have like a span, well, a button. Just gonna have a button in here. So this is just gonna be button, and then the class of this button is just gonna be btn and btn danger. So I already have like the styling set to that, right? So the text of it will actually be set up to remove. So what's gonna happen? So if I come in here, you'll actually see something, right? So I've got items 1, 2, 3. Okay. What I need to now do is actually now say to do service. Okay, this needs to be public. Okay, yeah, so I need to say this is the to do service that get to do's. And yeah, so this is basically it. So what's actually now happening, this will actually display my actual to-dos that I have in there. So if I were to open this new tab like this and open this, you'll actually see I don't have anything. If now I add something to do, right, if I add Angular, right, now you'll actually see that it's actually adding this, right? And you can see that we're using the same get to do's in this component, which is the app component, and actually in this to do inputs component, right? So now I'm just gonna tie in the actual remove button. So how I go about doing that is in here, I'm just gonna have like a click, right? And then this click will actually call this to do service that remove to do, and I'm going to pass in this index. Okay, so how this will work is if I click on Angular here, this will remove that, and then if I add another to do, just gonna add stuff and there, add, then if I remove like that, you'll see that that's actually working, and you'll see the moment I actually add, right, and remove, you'll see that the count is also changing. Yeah, so this is how you basically implement services and dependency injection in Angular. If you're new to the channel and you like this content, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.